Uh, yeah. Anyways, now you know what I sound like. Fun. When I first started trying to make this video, we were at 400 subs. We're at where are we? Let me look. We're at 3.22k subscribers. How? Why? For what reason? How did this happen? I don't know. I never, I was happy with 400. Now we're at 3,000 and I'm just I don't know what to do with myself. But, this is a long overdue video at this point, so let's just get into it. The reason it took me so long to come out with this video is because this story is not quite a closed book yet. More stuff just keeps happening. Stuff just keeps getting piled on top, and questions are getting answered. But I think I pretty much have the full story at this point, or at least as much of the story as I'm probably gonna get. So if you're interested, I'm gonna tell the story of how my college roommates gave my room away while I was gone, and the disaster of a mess that I came back to. Okay, so first of all, I'm a college student. This is my second year, and at the beginning of the year, I signed a lease to stay in one of the on-campus apartments. It's a 3-story apartment, and I'm staying on the top floor. Inside the apartment is a living area with 4 bedrooms, 2 downstairs, and 2 more up this little spiral staircase with a balcony. I'm paying to stay in one of the upstairs rooms, and after a few months of staying here, my boyfriend actually got a job much closer to campus than before, and he got this really good deal on an apartment, so I figured it'd be best if I just moved in with him rather than paying to stay on campus. But my request to break my lease was denied because I failed to give a good reason as to why I could no longer afford to stay on campus. And after this, they started ignoring my emails. So I just gave up. And I've been continuing to pay for this on-campus apartment ever since. Despite that, I've still been over at my boyfriend's house a lot. So much so that I essentially didn't stay in my on-campus apartment whatsoever. Recently, though, the apartment that my boyfriend was working for was sold, and with the new owner came new rules and new workers, and a lot of issues started coming up at work. My boyfriend was eventually fired and not given a proper reason other than we've come at a crossroad. The rent was raised substantially, so we need to move out. I figured this was fine for me, though, since I have an on-campus apartment, so I can just move back in for the remainder of this last quarter. However, when I stopped by my on-campus apartment, as I planned to move a bunch of my stuff back in, I walked in and I realized the whole place smelled really bad. So one of the girls who was staying along with her girlfriend had a dog, and they actually told me that she was a support dog to help with her anxiety. I have no problem with this because I love animals, and the campus was allowing her to keep the dog in the apartment since they had the dog registered as a support animal. That is the only reason that the dog was allowed in the apartment. Otherwise, animals other than goldfish are not allowed in the apartments, not even cats. Now, the last time I saw this dog, she was a puppy. But now, coming back, she's a full-size black lab. I guess she's technically still a puppy, but she's a big puppy. Not only that, but she also wasn't the only dog in the apartment now. There was now another large dog, and I don't even know where this one came from. For the time being, I just ignored it and walked up to my room. But when I got up the stairs and onto the balcony, I saw these trash bags filled with torn foam mattress toppers and just covered in dog poop. And I had some mattress toppers, just like these. But to my knowledge, my room was still locked, so surely they weren't mine. When I got to my door, I tried the handle just to make sure that my door was locked. I always do this. For my car, I try to open it before I unlock it just to confirm to myself that I did lock it. But surprise, surprise, my door wasn't locked. Why? I don't know. Because I know I locked the door before I left. And I had been gone at this point for like a month at least, probably. But the room was still being paid for by me. It's being paid for. So like, no one else should be in there. And I got the key. So I opened the door and I realized inside my room is disgusting. The floor was covered in dog poop, and there were these bags of trash just like sitting on the floor and on the bed. And the room had been completely rearranged. I just stood there in shock for a while. I didn't know what I was supposed to do. The girl who was currently in the apartment at the time, because everyone else was like off in their classes and stuff, but this girl, the girlfriend, I don't think she actually went to the school, so she was usually in the apartment, and so she was there at the time, and I looked at her and I was like, what happened? So she looks at me and she goes, oh yeah, some girl was staying in there and things didn't go well. And that's all she said. And that didn't answer anything for me. But I was not interested in asking any more questions. I just wanted to leave. I looked around my room and collected the things that I had left. I realized that my mini fridge had been used because it was moved from where I originally had it and it was plugged into the wall and running. And I don't know why someone would move it and then plug it in if they weren't trying to use it. And I had like a little trash can, a cute little white trash can with a kitty face on it, and I thought it was super cute. And it was just gone. It just wasn't in there. I guess they stole it, whoever this person was that had been staying in my room. I was mostly just glad that the mini fridge was not stolen, because that thing was $100. So I grabbed all my stuff and I carried everything to my car, which was exhausting. And then I left. There really wasn't much else for me to do. I definitely wasn't gonna clean the room myself since it wasn't my mess. Something really annoying that happened actually while I was moving my stuff out was that when I walked out with my dirty stuffed animals, the girl looks at me and she's like, oh, you should probably wash those. And I didn't act like it at the time, but on the inside, that really made me mad. Because your dogs, these dogs belong to her and her girlfriend. I'm like, your dogs get in my room and poop all over the place. And you're gonna tell me I should clean my stuff. First of all, duh. Second of all, I shouldn't have to clean my stuff. My stuff shouldn't have gotten dirty to begin with. And I get that accidents happen, but if your dog makes a mess, you should clean it yourself. Especially when they make a mess of something that is not yours. And I didn't know how long this mess had been there in my room. I knew they knew of the mess because she acknowledged it and was like, yeah, you should clean your stuff. It's pretty messy. Oh, someone was staying in your room and all this stuff. So they knew that there was a mess in my room, but they weren't cleaning it. They just left it for me to find. Like, what if I didn't come back? They were just gonna leave my room like that? And if they did just leave my room like that, I would be charged for the absolute disaster of the room. Like, that would come out of my tuition because the room is in my name. But I knew I had to do something about the room because I didn't want to be charged for the damages. So I decided to get in contact with an RA and tell them what had happened. I had recently got a new phone, and for some reason, GroupMe does not seem to carry your groups over to other devices, despite being logged in with the same account. So the only way I knew how to be added into the chat again was by asking my roommate to add me. So I messaged her on Snapchat, and I asked if she could add me back to the group chat. I was also hoping that she would just bring up the situation with my room on her own, because I feel like it's only right for her to address it, considering it was her dogs that shat all over the place. And if it was me, I would definitely, if I wasn't gonna clean it before they noticed something had happened, I would at least mention it and be like, yeah, we're gonna clean it and all this stuff. Like, I wouldn't just hope they don't find out. I would say something, you know? She didn't say anything. I guess she was hoping that I just hadn't found out or something. Hoping that I just wasn't back to my apartment. Hoping that I just wasn't going to come back. So I went ahead and I brought it up myself. But I tried to do it in a way that didn't sound accusatory because I didn't want to start some sort of argument. I just wanted answers and hopefully a clean room to return to. Immediately, she starts telling me this story about what happened to my room, and it honestly is kind of confusing in my opinion, which is probably because I didn't ask enough questions, but I'll show you the screenshots of our conversation. I tried to be as understanding as possible, and never blame any of this on her, because I figured there was no sense in arguing, and she did say she would clean the mess, which she did do. She also paid me $80 for the mattress toppers that were ruined. This story honestly makes no sense because apparently this girl that claimed my room belonged to her now was a friend of theirs. The only reason I can think of that would give this girl a reason to claim my room and think she could claim my room would be because my roommates, her friends, told her that I hadn't been back in a while, so they figured I just wouldn't come back at all, which is ridiculous, because they knew I was still paying for this room. The last conversation I had with her before this whole situation had to do with me not being able to break my lease, so I just continued to pay for the room, despite not actively using it. She knew I was paying for the room. So when her friend decided to claim my room for some reason, she should have realized that there was no way that she had my room now, since I was not able to break my lease. And what are the chances that your friend just so happens to get that room? And sure, my lease situation could have changed between the last time I spoke to her and then, but you would think she would at least ask me about it. She even mentions the reason she realized something was off was because of that last conversation we had. My theory is that she told her friend about my room and how I hardly was ever there and just let her move in. And then when things went south with this friend and they kicked her out, she just made this bit up to make an excuse as to how none of it was her fault. At the end of the day, though, it doesn't matter so much that the story is true or fake. I mean, it does a little bit to me because that just says something about your character, but whatever. It matters more to me that something was done about it. At this point, I had kind of calmed down, honestly. I figured everything was fine. My room was cleaned. I was given some money. There really wasn't anything to be bothered about at this point. And at that point, that was when I started I'm gonna make a story time about this. But we don't have happy endings here. The story just kept going. I go and start moving my stuff back in. And good God, how many dogs do you need? There were 4 dogs now. 4. In one apartment. And they were all big dogs. There wasn't like a chihuahua or anything. And I just think that's ridiculous. Like, cute, but ridiculous. And so irresponsible. Keep in mind, they're only allowed to have their initial dog because it is a registered support animal. These additional dogs are not. I asked about these additional 2 dogs, and I was told that they were rescued from behind a dumpster. I'm not sure who's just throwing a nearly pure white Australian Shepherd behind a dumpster, but I think if I found that dog, I would first try to find who the owner is. Our campus is in a town with pretty great resources to help in all sorts of situations, as well as helping find the owners of lost animals. It's totally possible that the dog was just lost. It does happen. A classmate of mine found a lost pit bull right around this time, and she sat with him until the owner came back looking for him. So there might be someone desperately looking for their dog. Meanwhile, these girls just snatched him up. I also just recently realized that the school will actually send out emails about lost dogs if you inform them that you found a dog. They'll send out an email, take a picture of the dog, say where it was found, and say if you know the owner of the dog, or if you are the dog, or if you... they'll say if you are the owner, or if you know the owner, to call this number, come get your dog, They'll help you find the owner of a dog. So, I don't know why they even took the dogs either, because they really don't seem like dog people. They get mad at these dogs for making the faintest sound and hit them in the face with shoes over and over when they hardly even made a sound. Like, I will not hear them at all, but I'll hear them yelling at the dogs and hitting them, and I'm just like, bruh, what? Honestly, the dogs are quiet most of the time, and I imagine it's because they're already used to being beat by these girls. These additional dogs, though, have not learned that yet. And so they end up barking a lot more. And when 2 dogs get to barking, so do the other dogs that are usually quiet. And 4 dogs barking can get pretty loud. It's not surprising that the neighbors have been making complaints about the noises. We have a GroupMe where people in the apartments can comment on things going on at the apartments. And I noticed that many complaints had to do with my apartment. Most of these complaints had to do with barking or finding little surprises outside left by our doggy friends, or like weird things being spilled. I don't know what that was about, but it was outside of my apartment. After seeing a good few of these complaints, I realized that the inside of the apartment still smelled terrible. And realizing that it probably wasn't going to get any better as long as all these dogs were staying here, I figured, no, I'm not going to move back into my apartment. I'll just request to be moved to another apartment and tell an RA what's been going on, like I initially planned on doing. So I go on GroupMe, I message the RA that seemed the most involved, and I told him what had been going on. He seemed more focused on the girl who was staying in my room for a while, which is understandable. But the issue was not really her. It was my roommates. They were the ones making this place unlivable. He said he couldn't do anything about the girl who was using my room without knowing her full name, and I obviously didn't know it, and when I asked my roommate, she only knew her first name, which is weird if you considered her a friend, but whatever. Just to be clear, they definitely aren't lying about the girl using my room. I found a drawing by her that she left in my room with her initials on it, as well as a painting made by someone who I assume is her significant other or maybe a really close friend. Anyways, I wasn't too worried about that. I was worried about the dogs and the complaints. He acknowledged that he had been getting a lot of complaints about that apartment, and he said he would go make sure that the dogs were registered. I don't know exactly how this encounter with the girls and their dogs went, because what he told me seemed a bit confusing. Apparently, they just claimed that those dogs weren't theirs, aside from the one that was actually registered. I don't know. I'm not sure if they even actually showed the registration papers to him, because he never confirmed that he saw the papers. But anyways, they actually told me that they were going to move out. So I told the RA that they were moving out, and there wasn't any damages at this point, at least not in my room. So I really didn't have any more issues. They are currently moving things out. All their stuff is actually gone at this point, but it still reeks of dog piss, because it had been like 3 days since they had been here. They moved all their stuff out, so I messaged them because I was getting worried that they weren't gonna come back and finish cleaning. So I was like, hey, it still smells really bad, and she's just like, oh yeah, no, we're coming tomorrow. Yeah, so it is tomorrow. Today is the day they're supposed to come finish cleaning. She said they're gonna mop again. I don't believe that they mopped to begin with, because there's still trash all over the floor. You can't mop on a trashy floor. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, that's all for this story. But y'all are crazy. I started making this as a celebration for 400 plus subscribers, and now we're at over 3K. So yeah, y'all are crazy. It did take me a while to make this, but still, that's a crazy number to me. So thank you guys so much. I intend on making some more videos like this, because y'all, I got a lot of stories to tell. I got a lot. I don't know that I'll ever run out. I'm sure I will, but you know, if you enjoyed this and you want to hear more stories, like and subscribe, please and thank you. I probably won't have receipts and pictures and stuff for most of my stories. The only reason I do for this is because, I was taking pictures as everything was unfolding, so I could like send to people and be like, oh my gosh, you won't believe what I'm dealing with. So just keep that in mind. Most of my stories are just gonna be stories. I'm not gonna have like evidence. But yeah,